Hello, everyone, and welcome to another BPO Connect webinar. I'm Catherine Galland, and today I'm joined by special guest presenter Grant Abbott of Now Infinity. So at BPO Connect, we've been using services at Now Infinity. And without further ado, I'll hand over the presentation to Grant, who will explain a little bit more about what he does at Now Infinity.
Thank you very much for that, Catherine. We've had a really close history with BPO Connect and certainly use their sources or their outsourcing and offshoring capabilities. They're certainly one of the best in Australia, and one of the areas that certainly I know we've been able to help improve their businesses in terms of helping them build SMSF strategies, executing a whole range of documents, particularly when we look at ASIC Corporate Messenger. This is just a little bit of an overview for all of you listening in around what Now Infinity does. But before I get there, obviously my name's Grant Abbott. I'm chairman of the Australian SMSF Members Association, also director of SMSF Strategies, a company solely focused on self-managed superannuation funds that's been going since 2005, and also now a director of Now Infinity, where I help build strategies, deliver content, and also I'm a director of Now Infinity Legal, which provides sign-off for all of our relevant documentation, our over 100 documents on the Now Infinity platform. I remember going back to my early days when I was an accountant at KPMG in 1987, and one of my partners there was, in fact, it's not untoward for most partners at that stage to have multiple files around them on the floor, and I can still envisage it these days that there'd be always a smelly set of documents sitting in the corner that might have been a unlodged unit trust return from about 5 or 6 years the partner just didn't want to get around to. Trying to find relevant documents and all that was an absolute pain. More importantly, as time's gone on and we're getting a lot more sophisticated, we find that most accountants and even financial planners and most financial services organisations and also businesses tend to run multiple data sources or customer relation management systems for their clients. In the accounting profession, typically ASIC has our clients' details. Any client that has a company, ASIC will have their details in terms of who the directors are, where the registered office is. Of course, we can change those directly by using a 484. We can change the directors or the registered office or whatever. The tax office also has its database of that company, or if it's acting for a trust. The Australian Business Registry, which gives Australian business numbers and tax file numbers, that would also have its own data. Plus, as an accountant, you might be running Zero Practice Manager or Zero, which will have your client's data. You might then also, if it's a self-managed super fund, have Class Super, and that would have the client's data as well. Or you might be using MyOb or Reckon or Intuit. And what happens now is we've got these multiple data entry sources, and everyone gets confused as to what the real source of truth is. And I know that's happened to us, that both SMSF Strategies and Now Infinity were both deregistered as companies under the ASIC portal. And it wasn't until I went and did a search online while I was showing our ASIC Corporate Messenger system that I found that was the case. And it was because the registered office for both SMSF Strategies and Now Infinity was one of our old addresses, and our accountant hadn't updated. They'd updated their CRM for the fact that we'd done the change of address, and I can tell you they were quite happily sending through invoices to our new address, but they hadn't notified ASIC. They hadn't done a 484 of a change of address. And so as a result of that, both those companies were deregistered, and it cost $1,100 per company in order to put that back online. But that's not something that's untoward. That happens day in and day out across Australia, particularly where we're getting our annual returns. Clients are then, or advisors or accountants are getting that information from ASIC, posting it out to the client, hoping that within 28 days the client is paying their annual return fee. It's just so painful having those multiple databases. And then, as I said, just like it was at KPMG, I remember we had rooms and rooms full of paper. And in a city like Sydney, and that was in Australia Square at that time, office space is extremely expensive. To fill it with paper, one, is very painful, and then having to go through that paper and try to find the relevant document you're after or the tax return you're after is absolutely painful. And more importantly, when you've got multiple data sources and you've also got papers flying everywhere, it's a danger there. There's going to be a mistake made somewhere along the line. In Now Infinity Legal, we come up across that every single day. When people going for a limited recourse borrowing arrangement under the SMSF laws go to banks, and banks come back and scrutinise carefully the relevant documentation. And more often than not, it'll be someone's name is spelt wrong, or the address is spelt wrong, or they made a mistake when it came around to doing a change of trustee, the ACN was wrong, which is crazy because we've got all these different data sources. And if I'm doing a simple transaction, well, I suppose there's nothing simple as establishing a self-managed super fund with a corporate trustee. I need to, first off, if I'm running through Zero Practice Manager, I would need to put data into Zero Practice Manager. I'll then need to go online and put data into the company ordering system. I'll then have to let ASIC know that I'm acting as their agent, their company agent. I'll then have to then go and set up a self-managed super fund, get member notifications, investment strategies, and of course binding death benefit nominations. There's quite a lot of work there to be done, and someone somewhere in your office will be filling that out. And that simple job would take hours, if not days, by the time we drop and pick things up. In a dream world, what would happen is that we run one database. And let me just paint a picture for you there. Let's say the database is Zero Practice Manager, or one of the other practice management tools we've got there. That's our main source of truth. So as an accountant, we just simply sit down and make sure we manage that database. So it's got all current addresses, it's got all current names, it's got all the relevant details there for our client. And that database connects with the regulators. So if there's a change in Zero Practice Manager, ASIC is automatically notified through a 484 that there's been a change of address. That way you wouldn't have any problems that I faced of having my two major business companies being deregulated. But not only that, it could connect with my CRM, with my email system such as MailChimp, or one of those other major email systems, and connects with all my business interactions such as with the ABR site and also the tax office site, and really any site for that matter. More importantly, we don't use documents anymore. We call them documents because we know them from history that they're actual documents, but they're not. They're just simply data files. They look and feel and smell like a document when we see them on our computer screen, but we don't actually need to hold those separately. So we don't need to print them out. The printer is dead and gone. And particularly now that digital signing is becoming ubiquitous. And the Now Infinity system, effectively, we use digital signer DocuSign, which is the world's leading digital signature solution and document management solution. But more importantly, it's great to say things are digitally signed or we have one database, but wouldn't it even be better if we could then have all our data, for example, that notification to ASIC, the setting up of the company, doing an investment strategy, and actually doing a trust deed. Why fill in that data again into those forms? Why get one of our secretaries or administrators fill it in if it can just be pulled out of Zero Practice Manager or your practice management system or Xero or Intuit or our MyOb, and it just pre-populates all of that data. So the system that was very inefficient can become extremely efficient every night. And ideally, again, we've got all these databases. Ideally, for us to clean it up, it'd be great to have a robot, like our own personal robot, that would go out and about each and every night and would check all our data sources. So to check the ASIC, it would check the tax office, it would check our CRMs, our MailChimp, to see if there's any discrepancy in the system, to make sure that all our data sources, that one source of truth, is absolutely perfect. That way we can clean up all our data and again make sure that once we get on a level playing field to make sure all our data is done properly, it's all there. And plus, why have square meterage dedicated to old paperwork that is really a fire hazard when it can all be put up in the cloud, whether it's Google Drive, whether it's SharePoint, or the big ones at the moment, Box or Dropbox seems to be extremely popular, whereas Xero last week and Dropbox seems to be the cloud storage solution. And these are the things that, this is the new world that we'd like to see. This would be my dream, you know, that a client, ideally, can you imagine that a client fills in, a new client fills in on an iPad their data, and that data goes straight into Xero Practice Manager. Now, of course, you get the client to check the data because you can't trust the client, but none of your staff has even touched that. It goes straight into Xero Practice Manager. The client says, I'd like to set up a self-managed superannuation fund. And of course, you're going to talk to them about a corporate trustee. And then within half an hour, you'll get back, or they'll be able to get back on their iPad, all of the relevant documentation, setting up investment strategy, binding death benefit nomination, notification to ASIC, and all they have to do is then use a digital signature to get that off and running. And then that gets emailed to them. They've got their complete set of constituent documents. And with our robot side, we've got a robot ABN TFN system. You'll generally find that the TFN will come back extremely quickly. Mind you, we're also starting to build that data side whereby we've got an ability to now link in with Macquarie and also Westpac bank accounts. And that will become a lot more ubiquitous. So the whole thing about Now Infinity, it's going to take your pain and suffering away. We've got numerous users, over 200 users across Australia. You can either use it on a pay-as-you-go basis, or we have, particularly for the larger firms, a all-you-can-eat system where you can use our ASIC Corporate Manager to manage all your corporate affairs, whether it's 200, 300 or 1,000 companies, where you can create unlimited documents, whether it's trust distribution resolutions, or it might be a commercial lease or a partnership or a confidentiality agreement. Or it could simply be doing an enduring power of attorney in Queensland for your client, or in South Australia. And of course, we've got a whole range of SMSF stuff. And plus, we've even gone further to now start to build multi-document strategies, such as the limited recourse borrowing arrangement, to all run in one line, where you can have 10 documents built together in one strategy. So that pain and suffering that we find, that losing our deed, not sending stuff off to client for signing and not getting back, everything now becomes instantaneous. So we've got those two systems, pay-as-you-go or $12.95 for as much as you can eat. So now the key about Now Infinity is it allows you to spend time on dealing with clients and building strategies through SMSFs, companies and trusts that really make a big difference to your clients. And also takes you back to where you started. The reason you got into accounting in the first place is to do wonderful tax strategies. Well, now you can do it, and you can do it efficiently. In fact, we find most of our big users will not go and tell one of their staff to go and do a contribution reserve or to start setting stuff up for their clients, because really, if the client's there, they can do it all for you. Now, that's the ultimate passing the buck. The client does it for you, and then you simply charge them for it. In fact, many of our users, and particularly some of the recent Xero people coming on board, have been laughing at how easy it is. And if their clients only knew what they were doing as part of the process, and the accountant is hardly doing anything because everything's automated, they really start to question those fees. But that's what it's about, taking away your pain and suffering. We don't want to be simply looking after the ATO and ASIC and form filling for them. We want to make sure that we're out talking some great strategies like contributions reserves, anti-detriment reserves, funeral reserves, limited recourse borrowing arrangements. These are the sort of stuff, that's where we make real value. That's our capital value. And we have weekly webinars at Now Infinity every Tuesday at 12:30. If you'd like to register, go onto our website and you can register or contact our office, and that's on 07554 5398, or contact me at grant@nowinfinity.com.au, and look forward to coming on those and really seeing what it's all about. as Amrita and myself will show you in an hour session. Bring all your partners, bring whoever's looking at the ASIC, a very interactive webinar so you can see what Now Infinity is about, how we're revolutionising the game and really taking you back to why you got into this in the first place. I'm sure my old partner at KPMG would absolutely shudder, but no doubt he's retired now. Anyway, I'll hand you back to Catherine, and Catherine will just talk about the next webinar that's coming up with BPO Connect.
Thank you very much, Grant. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Grant and email him. But if you, of course, can sign up for our next webinar on our website at bpoconnect.com.au. We hope to see you there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.